Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home.
Today we are going to attempt to fuel up and ignite this Ritepoint petrol view lighter. The flint mechanism pulls out, not all that different from the Scripto view, but then to fill it you're going to remove this threaded column nut which I don't see any O-ring even present there. I thought there might be an O-ring on it. The underneath side also just appears to be machined metal. Hard to say, hard to see. Looks like there might be some kind of a old seal there. Can't see it well enough, but we'll find out here in a moment once we squirt the fluid in here whether or not that'll hold it without a seal or not. So Roncinol straight down that fuel hole. It's going to get us almost halfway loaded up, and that should be good enough for our purposes today. Drop that column and thread it back down in there. I did have to use a screwdriver to break that free, but otherwise it was easy enough to unscrew it and screw it back down. So now it should not leak fuel. And it doesn't look like it is. You can see the bottom of that column nut there. So those threads should definitely be exposed to the fuel at this point, but it doesn't appear to be leaking out. Now take our flint mechanism, figure out which direction it's sparking. There we go. Get that back into place. Now this button back here was very stiff when I got it, which is what gives me no confidence that it's actually going to perform like it should. But this button works that valve that will let fuel into the upper chamber. It appears as though it's keeping it sealed out of the upper chamber fairly well enough. At least it hasn't leaked out the top anywhere. And there's apparently no fuel in the wick, as the wick is not igniting. So we are going to depress this button on the back and turn the lighter upside down. You can see the air come up, air bubbles. So now we should have fuel in our upper chamber. Still don't have any fluid leaking here, it doesn't appear, which I will take as a very good sign. That's the one thing I don't like about Scripto view lighters, is it seems that at least 75% of them, maybe more, leak. The old rubber seals have degraded, decayed over time, and become brittle, no longer perform their job. But perhaps this particular setup and the mechanisms that are used in it are not as prone to that sort of degradation or decay. We shall see. Nice advertising motif. It says trucks pay $2,410 in taxes each minute, day and night. And then it is actually an advertisement for Nichols Trailer and Equipment Company in Dothan, Alabama. I don't know if you got anybody out there who's from Alabama. I can't think of anybody right off the bat. We got some who are really close. J-Row Lights isn't too far from there. Dead Stick Dave isn't too far from there either. But so far, so good. I don't see any fluid dripping. Maybe a little bit of dampness to the wick, but that would be expected once we put fuel into that upper chamber. So let's just flip this up and see how it operates. Should have plenty of spark there. Let's see again about fluid. You saw a couple air bubbles come up there. So we should have plenty of fluid up here in the top. It's a small file wheel. And the more I have to hit it, the more likely it's going to wear my finger out. That wick is slightly damp. I don't know if it's the vapor lock keeping it from even trying to ignite. Give it another few attempts here. Most of those strikes sure look to me like that is sufficient enough spark that it should light. But perhaps the wick is contaminated. Definitely a little dirty. Let's just see what happens if we try to jump it off another lighter. So that did light sort of a small flame off of it. Pull that up just a little. I think I pulled it up a little there with my finger and thumb, but let me try. There we go, just a little bit more. Bloom that out on top. So the experiment that we were actually doing today was to see if it would hold fluid without leaking. And it appears as though it's holding fluid just fine, which is a good sign. But I sure would like to see this thing ignite. It's kind of funny to me that a wick that obviously has fuel in it, which we jumped off another flame with no problem, and that is a little bit better looking flame once we lengthen that wick. You also saw it start waning there the longer it was lit. So whether the problem is our wick or vapor lock, as you just saw that little small explosion there kind of blow out the top. So the jury is still out whether or not this will be a functioning lighter. The project will continue, but I can tell you for sure, at least at this point, the lighter does not leak fuel. Although it appears as though there's plenty of fuel up there in the upper chamber, as the wick was slightly damp. We got a little bit of vapor lock exhibiting, and maybe just a crusty old wick that is not conducive to ignition under these conditions. Until next time.